This is the Ask the Experts radio show. That means it's 5 o'clock on Thursday for your drive home. And let's see, how do I say this? You know, you have certain shows that you really enjoy doing and some that are just okay. Today's show, I really, really enjoy doing. And you know what? It's perfect for our listeners because we're going to talk elder law, estate planning. We talk guardianship. We talk about everything that has to do with estate planning. And we have gotten so many compliments on our guest, attorney Paul Labiner.
Good afternoon, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
People love you. I was telling Paul, I love the way he explains things, how he breaks things down. And let me tell you something. When you hire an estate planning attorney, there's got to be a trust factor there. And you guys go through with the families and the kids, the kinders, and
it's a challenge at times.
Yes.
And you know why? For one very simple reason: money.
Yes.
Everything that we do, you know. Yes, you mentioned estate planning, but it's really all about money and the effective transfer of wealth during lifetime, and then also at the time of an individual's demise. So everything that I deal with is all money related.
But it's a lot of it's also in the future, planning for the future, because we don't know. God forbid tomorrow something could happen to us. And I always, during our show, I bring up Prince. How does a guy who made all that money not have a will? It's with all the managers that he has that no one said, hey, Prince, you got to have a will, buddy.
Well, it's true. And you know, I've said this time and time again, Steve, I need 1% of an individual's time. Most people focus on the accumulation of wealth. Most people focus on their jobs, their families, and I get that. And I understand it, I appreciate it, and I endorse it. Take a small sliver of your time and effort to sit down with me or other competent counsel who can map out a cohesive financial blueprint that I promise you will pay off in spades, not only during your lifetime in terms of the money that you have for yourself and the taxes that you save, but also for your loved ones and your family unit. And that's true regardless of how much money that you have. I know that
we have a president, whether you like him or not, he has all kinds of people experts giving him information so he can make a decision. You know, a lot of people will sit down with just one person and they go by everything they say. I tell you what, and I'm going to give you Paul's number. You should call him tomorrow and make an appointment. I don't care if you have somebody else. Make an appointment, go sit down with him, and just see maybe there's something different. Maybe there's something better. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you spend 30 minutes or an hour, whatever will be the best time you've ever. It doesn't cost you anything to come in.
No, you know,
but
Steve,
imagine what you can learn.
Steve, thank you for even mentioning that. You know, I look at myself.
I love you, bro.
Just as you would if you were going in for surgery. If you were going in for surgery, more likely than not, you would like to get another opinion. The same principle applies when you deal with your finances and with your family's wealth. Yes, there are competent attorneys and financial people out there. I'm not the only one. I do believe I'm good at what I do.
You're one of the few, though, who just concentrates on estate planning.
Well, yes and no. I mean, there are other attorneys that...
But they do other areas of law, too.
That's true. My practice is dedicated, you know, solely to wealth management, estate planning, tax planning, probate. So, you know, when you talk about estate planning, that's, you know, that's a wide range. It's a broad, wide range. But I welcome the guests. I welcome, the people that are listening to call me, get a second opinion. I have no problem spending my time and effort. More often than not, I will find something to at least have a dialogue about.
You get off on this.
I enjoy this.
Helping people out.
I do enjoy this. You know, Steve, I'm going to be 65 next month.
He looks like he's like 50.
Okay. I'm going to be 65. I do this because I really enjoy it.
I can tell.
I do this because I earnestly want to help people. You know, Do I have the desire to make money? Well, of course I do.
Everybody is.
I'm in business. You know, my daughter was engaged last night. I have a big
We got
wedding.
to congratulate him.
I have a big wedding. I'm sure I'm going to have to
Mazel
plan.
tov.
Thank you.
Oh my
thank
God,
you.
that's right. It's a daughter. You got to plan a wedding.
So, you know, so I enjoy the fruits of my labor, but that's not my motivation. My motivation is to help an individual, and everything else falls into place.
It's obvious, and I got to tell you something. You might think that everything is okay in your future, and Paul and I talk about this all the time. My fiance, I don't know who did this, but they did not protect themselves through probate, and it's too late. The person already died. It's in probate. This could have been stopped a long time ago. Instead, monies are going out to attorneys. Hey, listen, I don't blame their attorneys. That's what they do. Money is going out to another person that it should. I am telling you, you've got to protect yourself. And if you think you're protected, maybe you really aren't.
Well, that's true. You know, one of the topics that we wanted to talk about today is, you know, our trust, or more specifically, irrevocable trust.
Tell everybody first about your firm.
Sure. You know, I'm delighted to say that my practice is really dedicated to assisting families, businesses, in terms of developing a cohesive financial blueprint. What does that mean? That means looking at the tax posture, both income tax as well as potential estate tax, although that's a nominal issue for many, many people today. I look at the transfer of wealth. The transfer of wealth is an important issue. I'll give you an example, and this kind of relates to the topic at hand. My daughter just got engaged last night. I am so excited. I love this young man.
Let me give you his address to send gifts.
I love this young man.
You like the guy?
I really, he's a prince of a guy, and I am just so blessed to have him in my life. My daughter adores him. They're just a beautiful, beautiful couple. But I'll be honest with you. As much as I like him, at the time, I need to go back and review my documents. Why? Because at the time of my death, as much as I love my daughter, as much as I love her future husband, I want to make sure that my assets transfer efficiently at the time of my death, and solely for the benefit of my daughter and her children. Many of my clients have the philosophy, well, when I'm dead, I don't care. I don't believe that for 1 second.
Is that true? They think that way. Wow.
They say it tongue in cheek. I don't think they really mean it, Steve. You know.
What about I'm going to be married forever?
Well, unfortunately, that's not necessarily an accurate statement.
I know.
Okay, you know.
So you never know.
Well, you never know, and that's exactly my point. So when I develop a cohesive plan as it relates to, let's say, my daughter, I want to make sure that those assets at the time of my death are there for the benefit of my daughter. If AJ, my soon-to-beloved son-in-law, is part of that equation, God bless him.
Right.
That money's there for them. That money is there for their utilization. But if for some unfortunate set of circumstances, that relationship is not solid, that relationship is not cohesive, that relationship fails, I want to make sure that those
Which is not unusual.
Well, which is unfortunately not unusual. I want to make sure that that money is protected, preserved, and insulated for my loved ones. And if
There's no fighting afterwards.
and there's no fighting
You're going to
afterwards.
eliminate that right now.
That and my documents
Is
can
that
do
hard
that.
to do?
Is that
Is it difficult to do because you're
not at all?
Okay.
And most people think, well, I don't have enough money. You know, we talked about this
Right.
time and time again.
Especially when it comes to wills.
Right. This is not about how much money you have. This is about developing a cohesive plan that ensures that your monies transfer to your loved ones, and regardless of what the external factors may be, whether it's a divorce, whether it's creditors, whether it's a second marriage, whether it's poor health, whether it's the inability to manage finances effectively, we have a forum, a developed cohesive blueprint to make sure that those funds are absolutely
And what
preserved.
if someday you get a job that pays you a lot of money? I mean, you might not have been making much money. Things happen. what happens if all of a sudden your income goes way up?
Well, I mean, that's a wonderful problem to
But
have.
some people say, I don't have enough money, but you never know.
Well, that's true. And I will also tell you, from the standpoint of my daughter and that generation, the millennials, I'm not sure that they will have the ability to accumulate wealth to the same extent that our generation did, for example.
You got to explain that one.
Okay, so, I think we were blessed.
Yes.
I think we were blessed at a time that we had the ability to accumulate wealth, the ability to have secure jobs and finances that I'm concerned that the younger generations today do not necessarily have. Now, yes, there are, people that work in Wall Street. Yes, there are people that work in the tech industry that make millions upon millions of dollars. I'm referring to, just from my observation and in my discussions with my contemporaries, that we're concerned that our children may not have the ability to have the same amount of accumulated wealth as we have. So if we develop strategies that when we leave this beautiful earth, to ensure that those monies will be there for their future, what more can you ask for? You're developing a nice, cohesive blueprint for you to enjoy during your lifetime, for your children, your grandchildren to enjoy, and try to eliminate as best as possible those external factors that we do have some control over, and we understand what they are, as I said.
You know what the roadblocks are. A lot of people don't know all the things that could
well, that's
block
true.
them.
It's not only, and even if they do know it, they don't put it in a context of what it means to them personally. So in many respects, and that's a great point, Steve, is that they need an independent, objective advisor, a counselor, who can look at their set of circumstances and say, okay, this is a possible problem that we need to think about. You want to address it or not? This is another possible issue that we need to be sensitized to.
We have a lot of grandparents that listen to the show, and we're going to go to our first break now. And I want to give everybody your phone number, and please write this down. I want you to call Paul this week or next week and listen, come sit down with him. Maybe you aren't on the right path. Maybe you need to hear someone else's advice. Doesn't cost you anything to sit down. Give everybody your phone number.
Sure, I'd be glad to. I'm delighted to see you. Come to my office. We'll have a nice cup
And
of
he really
coffee.
means that.
I am conveniently located in Boca Raton. Telephone number is 561-998-2362. Again, that's 561-998-2362.
We're going to go to break. We'll be right back with Paul.
The law office of Paul S. Labiner has been providing quality and cost-effective legal advice to professionals, businesses, individuals, and families throughout South Florida, New York, and New Jersey for over 3 decades. Their mission is to provide personalized service which ensures that you, your family, your business, or your assets are safe and protected. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today, 561-998-2362, and let him begin the creation of a financial blueprint in conformity with your needs, desires, and concerns. It took much effort and hard work for you to enjoy all that you have today, so it only makes sense that you implement strategies to protect and defend it. The law office of Paul S. Labiner, PA, is a reputable law office nestled in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, that is dedicated to providing you with personalized legal services that meet the specific needs of your family. Attorney Paul S. Labiner designs estate plans that ensure the most effective transfer of wealth, implement policies to mitigate income and estate taxes, and draft wills and trusts to maximize your family's wealth. Call attorney Paul S. Labiner today at 561-998-2362.
We are back here. I love doing this show. We have one of the finest estate planning attorneys. You can tell, you can hear his passion. He's located in Boca Raton, but it doesn't matter whether you're in Broward or Dade. He covers all those areas, and his name is attorney Paul Labiner, and we are going to talk about irrevocable trust. Explain what that is.
Sure. It's
I hear how great it is.
well, it is great. And first, let me explain. When people think of irrevocable, their first reaction is negative, and that's a terrible misconception, because an irrevocable trust, although there is some limitations to it, there are many opportunities. Number one, to incorporate tremendous amount of flexibility into the document itself. And thankfully, in the state of Florida, under the right set of circumstances, we can actually make changes and amendments to that document. But what is an irrevocable trust? Irrevocable trust, again, using my daughter as an example, and there's many different types of irrevocable trust, but the irrevocable trust that I alluded to earlier in the first part of our program is an actual irrevocable trust that gets established at the time of my death. It's called a testamentary irrevocable trust. So that irrevocable trust is there for the benefit of my daughter. Because it's for the benefit solely of my daughter and her children, my hopefully soon to be grandchildren, if I'm blessed, sometime in the future. A divorce cannot cannot get access to those funds. Creditors cannot get access to those funds. Poor financial management that my daughter might have, because she's a nurse practitioner and finances is not one of her strong suits.
Does this eliminate probate in any way?
It does eliminate probate if incorporated into a revocable trust.
Okay.
So again, it gets a little bit more complicated.
But you don't want to go through probate.
You don't want to go through probate. You don't want to go through probate. But that's the simple part. You want to make sure that your assets are protected. Another example. I love my wife dearly. Mindy, if you're listening, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. But Mindy is not the mother of my children. And God forbid something happens to me, I want to make sure that Mindy is taken care of. And I've made provisions to make sure that Mindy is taken care of. That upon my death, there's a trust, an irrevocable trust, created for her benefit. However, upon her demise, I want to make sure that those assets transfer to my son and my daughter. To
No fighting.
No fighting. Although I love my stepchildren, my primary objective is to make sure that my wife is protected and that my lineal descendants are protected. So there's another trust, another irrevocable trust that's created in my document for the benefit of my beautiful wife, Mindy, to accomplish and secure her well-being, but also make sure that those assets ultimately transfer down to my lineal descendants, my children, my grandchildren, and the like. That's just one simple example.
So you rest easier, too.
Well, I do rest easier. I know that...
Because you know what could happen.
Well, I know very well that
seen
could
it.
happen. And there are other ways of incorporating irrevocable trust. I do much work for professionals and business owners and physicians who are concerned about malpractice actions or concerns about lawsuits. Well, an irrevocable trust, if designed appropriately, can also be a beautiful forum to protect and preserve wealth.
Should everybody be a candidate or no?
Not necessarily. Okay, we talked to during the break we were talking about grandchildren. We were talking
Right.
about you went to the recital for your grandchild last night. So grandparents are wonderful prospects. I love to talk to grandparents. Why? Because their grandchildren can do no wrong. Talk to them about their children. Well, maybe not.
Right.
But their grandchildren,
Right.
flawless. They're perfect. So there are educational trusts. Now, an educational trust is just another form of an irrevocable trust that can be established by grandparents today to ensure and guarantee that there are funds, or at least a part of the funds, necessary to meet the future educational expenses of their grandchildren, whether it's college, whether it's graduate school, whether it's a combination thereof. So that's another form of an irrevocable trust. Many people use irrevocable trust to hold life insurance. At one time, when we had an exemption, that was much lower than we have now. Right now, estate taxes, unless you're extremely wealthy, with an estate value in excess of $22 million, which is...
I have that in one of my banks. I stopped counting after.
So, it is a limited number of people that qualify for that. But again, the irrevocable trust for life insurance is a way to ensure that asset is not only exempt from income tax, but also exempt from estate tax. So a trust is established to hold that life insurance to ensure that those assets and that cash is available for the named beneficiaries at the time of death of an individual.
I don't know if this is the part you actually take part in, but I told you that my Renee, her daughter, is autistic.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid she passes away. Who's going to take care of her daughter? And her father was going to take care of it. He passed away. It's one of those kind of things, I guess you say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Steve,
and then it's too late.
Well, it is. And Steve, that's a great question. When I'm dealing with special needs, autism, for example.
1 out of 75 kids are born.
My best friend's granddaughter is autistic. So I'm very sensitized. I have many clients who have special needs and special circumstances. Again, an irrevocable trust is a perfect example because you want to make sure that special needs child is taken care of. Not only taken care of from the standpoint of providing the necessary funds, but also taken care of that any entitlements that they may receive from the state of Florida or the state of New York or New Jersey that I'm also licensed with, that those benefits that they receive are not dissipated, are not destroyed, are not eliminated due to a significant transfer of wealth that occurs at the time of an individual's death. So we establish another form of irrevocable trust. We happen to call it a special needs trust, but that special needs trust is just another type of irrevocable trust that we've been talking about all afternoon.
I got to get this in because, speaking from experience, there's a lot of parents out there who have a special needs child, especially with autism. And with Renee's daughter, she can't do a lot of things herself.
Understood.
So when she leaves this earth, what happens to her daughter? I'm telling you, if you haven't seen yet, when they turn 18 years old, and do not wait till they turn 18, they need to call you, because I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of work involved with guarantorship.
Guardianship.
Guardianship. There's a lot of work.
And cost.
You do not want your child becoming a ward of the state. And that's kind of what happens if you don't take care of it. And I'm telling you, if your child is autistic, there's so many autistic kids, you should call Paul tomorrow. Don't wait till they turn 18. Call if they're 12, 14. I'm telling you, you are in for a big shock.
Well, that's true. There's another example, and it's not necessarily a pleasant one, but drugs and alcohol for individuals today is an issue. And unfortunately, what you don't want to do is at the time of death, if there is a drug or alcohol problem, want to transfer a significant amount of dollars into the hands of that individual, especially if they're still active in their drug addiction or alcoholism. So this is a perfect example where the irrevocable trust is, again, an insulated forum and an insulated instrument to preserve and protect those monies and ensure...
Who would think of something like that?
Well, again, that's why, in many respects, I'm the catalyst. I will tell you, and I do this as a matter of course, in every one of the documents that I draft, there's an alcohol and drug abuse provision.
Wow.
Okay, every document. And I take and I explain to my clients that I incorporate this. I have never, and that is the God's honest truth, gotten pushback from any client that I've incorporated those provisions, because in today's day and age, we just never know what the future may be. Not so much for children, but maybe for grandchildren or so forth. So again, another example of where an irrevocable trust comes into play. So irrevocable trusts take different forms, but the beauty of it, the benefit of it, is so instrumental if crafted properly and crafted in such a way that it correlates with the needs and circumstances of the family unit. And every family unit is different. It's very subjective.
I told you, he's good. He's good. We only have a minute left. Tell everybody why they should meet with you. You now, not just an estate planning attorney, but you.
You know, I hope I express the compassion that I have for the work that I do. You know, I am, you know, I can give you all of the accolades. I can give you my experience. I can tell you everything that I've done. I think the most important thing is that I care.
You can tell.
I care. And that's my primary motivating factor, is that I care. I want to do the next right thing. That's my mantra in my life today. I have the skills, I have the background, I have the experience, I have the gray hairs, even though it doesn't show it very much. And I have the resources to be able to, you know, to really develop that cohesive plan.
I got to tell, I don't even know if I've told Paul this, but we have a lot of attorneys that listen to our show. And I've actually had 2 attorneys who also do estate planning wanting to do a show, and we can only have one, but they both complimented you.
Thank you.
That's nice coming from your peer. I heard your estate planning attorney on there. He's really good. Do you have an opening for me? But that's nice to hear that from your
That is
peers.
very nice to hear from you.
Listen, the 30 minutes always goes by so fast. Paul will be back with us next month.